Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna
So stop that then.
Whoops.
Visit it again.
towards a final report. I'm Richard Berkson, principal with Berkson Associates, and I have been working on this report with Jennifer Stevenson of Policy Consulting Associates. Our firms have collaborated for several years on numerous projects. Combined, we've probably completed several hundred municipal service reviews for various types of agencies, including sanitary districts, and also prepared related studies on fiscal impacts of development, financing studies for capital improvements, and governance studies of potential reorganizations. And of course, many of those issues have arisen in the course of preparing this MSR. Just a little more background about MSRs, and then Jennifer will go into some of the detail about the process. But the MSR requirement has been embedded in state law for about 20 years. The impetus to the law's creation was a need and a desire to improve local public services. And that ultimately is the objective of this MSR process. As Rob said, we're here this evening to summarize key findings of the MSR, but more importantly, to listen to comments, questions, and input so that we can improve the document. And as Rob said, there'll be more opportunities for comment. We'll go over that a bit more towards the end of our presentation, because we do recognize the document has a lot of information and it was just posted. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer to talk more about the process that we went through.
Okay. As Rob mentioned, the municipal service reviews have several categories under which LAFCO is required to come to determinations. And to that end, we've collected information and data and compiled that from each of the agencies via requests for information from their websites, and also from interviews with each of the agencies. It was compiled and then evaluated in chapters on each of the subject agencies, and each of the agencies had an opportunity to review their preliminary chapters. After that point, an administrative draft was revised based on comments received from LAFCO staff and the agencies themselves. And what you have in front of you right now is the public review draft of the report for review and your further comments for the next month. So let's get into it. Our presentation here today is on the most highest of the findings, the most important areas of focus. Of course, there's a lot more detail and information in a 231-page report. So definitely, I recommend reading the report for greater detail and information. It's I really very proud of this product. And the other place I recommend that you read, there's the executive summary, of course, but at the end of each chapter are the required determinations that LAFCO is required to come to. So if you look at the end of the chapter for each of the agencies, that's where you'll find those. And they're kind of, I like to term as highlighted findings. Okay, so first we'll start with the city of East Palo Alto. It's a general law city. It was incorporated in 1983 and covers approximately 2.6 square miles. The city provides a range of services to a population of about 30,000 residents. The services that the city provides directly include law enforcement, stormwater drainage, street maintenance, street lighting, and parks and recreation. They also provide domestic water services by contract. These services are discussed in detail in the report in separate service sections. And the related determinations, as I mentioned, are made for each service separately. However, for the purposes of this presentation, we're focusing on wastewater collection services that are provided by East Palo Alto Sanitary District and West Bay Sanitary District. given the high degree of impact the service has on the city and its constituents. So on the next slide, growth has been fairly static in the city over the last 2 decades, but there's a number of pending developments that indicate the potential for growth that's planned for in the city's general plan. As of December 2021, the city had 20 unconstructed development projects that totaled about 1,469 dwelling units and 4.2 million square feet of non-residential building space. Also, the city has received applications for numerous accessory dwelling units. And the general plan and recent state legislation allows for further increases in development. Until recently, there was a moratorium on new connections to water services that was impeding development in the city. However, with the repeal of that moratorium in 2018, development was finally able to proceed. However, impediments to development continue to exist. In particular, East Palo Alto Sanitary District reports that it lacks collection capacity to serve new construction and necessary capacity enhancements required by the district for those desiring to connect to the system are exceptionally costly, deterring potential developers and preventing some approved developments from being completed. Richard will go into more detail on this in the upcoming slides. In an effort to address this issue, the city and East Palo Alto Sanitary District formed an intergovernmental committee that met regularly. However, a solution was not identified and the meetings were put on hold. So to date, there's been no solution identified to develop a financing plan satisfactory to all parties, and development continues to be delayed. Because the majority of East Palo Alto Sanitary District's ratepayers are also residents of the city of East Palo Alto, the transition of East Palo Alto Sanitary District to a subsidiary district of the city may be the most practical solution for this impasse. The governance option would, firstly, align provision of sewer services with other community interests and municipal functions. Second, would increase community representation and sewer service. Third, would improve transparency and public outreach. Fourth, result in a potential cost savings to ratepayers. And finally, improve sewer infrastructure and services. This option will also be discussed in more detail at the end of this presentation. Additionally, if East Palo Alto Sanitary District were to become a subsidiary district of the city, an option would be for the city to contract with West Bay Sanitary District for sewer operations in lieu of attempting to provide a new service on their own. And I'll give it back to you, Richard, for the next one.
Right, thank you, Jennifer. So as you can see, this is the map that was also up during Jennifer's presentation. You can see that the East Palo Alto Sanitary District does cover much of the city of East Palo Alto and also a portion of Menlo Park. That's, of course, the small green area towards the bottom. What's the area of the district is a little bit under 2 square miles, includes a population of about 26,000 people. What's important to note, and I think this map illustrates this, is about 92% of the district falls within the city of East Palo Alto's boundaries. Now, as I think many of you probably know, it's clear that EPASD's sewer rates are among the lowest in the county. At $600 per year, they're about half of the median of other agencies within the county, some of which actually have rates that are much higher, in part because of infrastructure deficiencies. Now, the district has been successful at keeping those rates low, in part because of reduced expenditures and to some extent deferred capital expenditures. For example, there were expenditures proposed or planned in the 2015 master plan update, which were largely not implemented. However, the district did rerun a hydraulic analysis, which is documented in its 2021 addendum to its master plan update. And that hydraulic analysis did predict the potential for sewer overflows occurring under existing conditions for current ratepayers. And in addition to that, new development would increase flows and also further increase the potential for surcharging, that is pipes flowing full, and the possibility of overflows. Now, that addendum did identify improvements that could expand capacity, both to address existing deficiencies that were identified, and also identify those pipe expansions that could mitigate the impacts of new development. However, at this point, the addendum does not, unlike the 2015 master plan update, the addendum does not include priorities, timing, potential funding sources to equitably allocate improvement costs. This table summarizes costs facing the district for capacity expansion to address those deficiencies that were identified in the addendum. And the costs are significant. They do present a significant barrier. What's important about this table is to look at the components of the cost. You see, first of all, down at the bottom of the table, a total of about 40 million. And those numbers, of course, change with inflation and conditions. But this is a good starting point for understanding what goes into that 40 million. You can see the collection system according to the hydraulic analysis. There are existing capacity deficiencies and the potential for sanitary sewer overflows at a number of manhole locations in addition to surcharging. And fortunately, the district hasn't reported any overflows over the past several years. But nonetheless, this is what is reported by their most recent hydraulic analysis. And the costs to mitigate that are significant. It's the nearly $24 million that you see here. In the hydraulic modeling, flows from new development were added, and the costs increased by about almost $9 million. There were other improvements that were included in that addendum to further improve flows and reduce surcharging and reduce flow levels, and those additional costs are shown. So those total 35 million. The district has also indicated that at least down the road with more development, there is the possibility that they may need more capacity at the treatment plant, and that's the $5 million that's shown down there. And again, we're drawing from various sources that are documented in the MSR, and so it's quite possible, as I said, these numbers will change over time. Also, at the bottom of the table, I've indicated a figure for ongoing annual repair and replacement. And the district has budgeted periodic amounts. I know that they target between $1 million and 1.5 million, although in recent years, it appears that the average for capital improvements and investment have been somewhat less than that, perhaps closer to that $500,000 average. But the point is that there are funds available through rates and the property tax revenues that the district receives as well for that purpose. Again, at this point, the district hasn't identified how these costs would be allocated between existing development and new development. Now, the MSR makes the point that funding options do exist that can assure that existing ratepayers do not pay for the impacts of new development. And we concur that there are legal issues, constitutional issues, and so forth, and just practical policy decisions that are common to most public agencies that share this view. But that being said, the district has identified a need for expansion of capacity to serve existing development, and their capacity charge study has also indicated that by coordinating improvements, for example, improvements to serve existing ratepayers and improvements to serve new growth, that cost efficiencies can be gained for both parties. The MSR does talk about various funding sources that are possible. Again, segregating existing deficiencies from impacts of new development, and they're described in more detail, of course, in the MSR, but they may include some level of debt, ideally low interest debt from the state would help make the improvements more viable. Capacity charges, the MSR recommends, sorry, jumped ahead. The MSR makes a recommendation that those capacity charges be updated as another source of funding. Now, they clearly, in the short term, won't pay for all of the improvements that may be needed, but nonetheless, they are one of several sources, and they may provide some ability to reimburse developers to the extent that they build more infrastructure than simply that necessary to serve their project. The capacity charge study done in about 2019 did not account for the levels of development that are currently proposed, nor did it account for the costs to expand the capacity of the system. So in order to package something that works, keeps rates at a lower level for existing ratepayers, allocates costs to new development based on their share and their impact, the district needs an updated, effective master plan that, again, identifies those improvements, priorities, costs, funding allocations, and timing. Jennifer mentioned the lack of sewer capacity and inability for the district to serve new development does have a number of potential adverse effects on city residents. Again, ratepayers of the district are 9 out of 10 are also residents of the city. Absence of development results in less potential public tax revenues and charges to fund and improve services, fewer affordable housing opportunities and commercial development that is planned by the city, and less economic development and jobs. So I will turn it back to Jennifer, who will talk about the West Bay Sanitary District.
Thank you, Richard. West Bay Sanitary District is a regional sanitary sewer provider. They serve, as you can see on the map, an expansive area of 13.5 square miles that includes the city of Menlo Park, portions of Atherton, East Palo Alto, Portola Valley, Redwood City, Woodside, and some in unincorporated areas. They provide sewage collection as a direct service and sewage treatment through their membership within Silicon Valley Clean Water, as well as garbage collection in certain unincorporated areas through a franchise agreement. Additionally, the district provides contract services for operations and maintenance to the town of Los Altos Hills and the town of Woodside. That was for sanitary sewer collection services. And the district provides services to nearing 20,000 residential customers and 625 commercial customers. Okay. Next slide, please. Over the course of the MSR, West Bay Sanitary District demonstrated a very high level of transparency and accountability by complying with all related legal requirements that are reviewed. It is also a recipient of the District Transparency Certificate of Excellence from the Special District Leadership Foundation, and has established what they term the open government section, which is charged with ensuring transparency and easy access to the public. Operationally, based on a multitude of factors such as overflow rates, regulatory compliance, preventative maintenance practices, West Bay provides what we would term an adequate level of wastewater collection services. They have in the past struggled with a high peaking factor, which indicates a moderately high level of infiltration and inflow, but it's not been identified as an issue for the system. The pipes have demonstrated sufficient capacity during wet weather, and hydraulic models do not show any bottlenecks. Additionally, West Bay has made efforts to address these issues through significant capital projects and continues a program of regular capital replacement and continual rehabilitation. The district's master plan is almost 10 years old, and many improvements have been made since the hydraulic assessment was conducted. It's unclear the degree to which flows are at or nearing capacity and which segments are most impacted. This is anticipated to be addressed in their 2022 master plan update that is underway. With regard to governance structure options, we've already hit on it a couple of times, but if a subsidiary district is formed as discussed, then West Bay Sanitary District could provide contract services to the city similar to those that it provides to the two towns. And then also at present, it should be mentioned that the territory of East Palo Alto Sanitary District is located within West Bay Sanitary District's sphere of influence. This was an indicator by LAFCO that it anticipated the territory presently within East Palo Alto Sanitary District to be annexed by West Bay Sanitary District, and East Palo Alto Sanitary District subsequently dissolved. West Bay Sanitary District has indicated that while it's able to take those services on in the area, that it is not willing to pursue such a reorganization without the agreement of East Palo Alto Sanitary District. Thank you, Richard.
Okay. So, really to recap on governance options, and first I'd like to note that state law does require that MSRs consider governance options that could improve services to a community. And in addition to the motivation behind the MSR in the first place, it is a requirement that we consider options. And further, as noted in the MSR, LAFCO had designated EPASD sphere of influence as a basically zero or dissolution sphere of influence back when the city was formed and after the 2008 MSR was conducted, there was no change to that zero sphere of influence. Jennifer did already mention, and we have talked about some of the reasons why a subsidiary district was considered as a potential viable option, and it as being able to align sewer services with other community needs and municipal functions. A subsidiary district would basically be run by the city council acting as the board of a subsidiary district. And Jennifer talked about the possibility of West Bay contracting to provide services. There were other options considered in the 2008 MSR, although those did not seem viable, and the MSR goes into more detail about those. For example, dissolving the district and realigning source services with city boundaries. And there are a number of obstacles to that option. So the next steps, and this is repeating to some extent what Rob has already said, but it's worth saying again, we look forward to public comment on this draft report, and comment will be open until May 5th. There will be a LAFCO hearing on April 20th for giving us a chance to present the report to LAFCO and get their feedback, as well as additional public comment. Based on those comments and feedback, there'll be revisions, I expect, to the draft MSRs. And then there's a LAFCO hearing, I understand, will be scheduled for June 5th. And at that hearing, LAFCO can consider adoption of the final report. Any reorganization options will depend on actions by LAFCO and applications by a public agency or by resident petition. And we can talk about more of those legal steps if there are questions about it. So at this point, I think we're available for questions unless there's anything else that Rob or Jennifer wanted to add at this point, but otherwise, we hope to hear from everybody.
Just one quick note, it's tentatively scheduled for the June 15th LAFCO, not June 5th. For potential adoption of the MSR. It's correct on the slide though. And okay, as we move into comments and questions again, please use the raise hand function, and then I'll invite you to speak, and I'll just try to see people as I can. And so the first person that I see that has a hand up is Akin. So Akin, I'll allow you to talk, and then I'll start a timer for about 5 minutes or so. So you should be asked to unmute your microphone, and then when you unmute your microphone, you can start talking.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I've gone through the report. I would like to speak to a lot of things. I think number one, the report is very inaccurate. All the data presented in the report are not factual. Most of the comments I made and I sent to the consultant were not addressed. The consultant did not talk about the constitutionality of raising the rates and passing the cost to existing ratepayers. The information presented in the report are totally unfactual and baseless. I sent a lot of questions to the consultant. They were not addressed. It is my honest opinion that the consultant is working for the developer, and the strategy is that if we don't raise the rate past the cost of existing ratepayer to developers, then they should dissolve the district. That is what the consultant is doing, in my opinion. Every data presented in the report are totally baseless, unfactual, and inaccurate. How can a consultant that is not a professional engineer be talking about hydraulic analysis? is just absurd, in my opinion, because the consultant does not even understand the engineering report in the first place. So how can you critique what you don't understand? So in my opinion, the process is not thoroughly done. And from the beginning, I made a comment to the consultant that you need to have a professional engineer in your team. That how are you going to understand the report? I mean, you are reading something that you don't understand and you are commenting. Even the finances, the financial analysis done by the consultant is wrong. I sent the consultant a copy of the audit report that was done by a CPA, and everything in the MSR contradicts the report written by certified public accountant. That's how you know that it's just a process just to find a way to impose rate increases on the existing customers. That is not necessary. The pipes are not old, the pipes are in good condition. It is an excuse to raise the rate. It is an excuse to pass $45 million onto existing customers. That is not justified. I've told the consultant many times, present net present value table. You are saying the project is going to add value. There's no data to support that. There's no net present value table to support that. There's no cost benefit analysis in terms of quantitative to support that. I'm just disappointed in the report, in my opinion. In my 30 years of experience of practicing as a professional engineer, I've never seen that kind of report being so absurd. This is just my honest opinion. The report is not thoroughly done. The facts are inaccurate. The consultant needs to address all my comments. Don't leave out certain comments. For example, the consultant, they say the infrastructure as a whole and needs to be replaced. Engineers don't replace infrastructure based on age. We replace infrastructure based on loss of engineering properties. If the engineering properties are sound, the age is immaterial, and the consultant keeps writing it in the report, the infrastructure as a whole. Where is the proof that the pipes are failing? No proof. Just because they are old, I should spend $45 million. It's a destruction of wealth. I don't see, I mean, in engineering, we don't replace infrastructure based on age. We replace infrastructure based on loss of engineering properties. So if the consultant does not understand this notion, I just believe the process is flawed, in my opinion. Thank you.
I don't know if Richard or Jennifer, if you have any comments to that. Otherwise, we do have another person with their hand raised.
Okay, no, I'll make a few comments. First of all, we appreciate the comments and suggestions that, that we received from the district, from Aachen, and from board members. There were quite a few pages, and we did go through comment by comment and actually did make quite a few changes and additions to the report to better reflect some of the concerns that were provided to us. So we did make quite a few changes. And of course, as we said, we are still open and interested in any factual errors or any clear misstatements that are made in the MSR. And so we hope that this next period of time that those will be submitted to us. Now, it's correct, we don't have an engineer on our team. This is a municipal services review, and it's important to us that the members of the public be able to understand and read documents that are submitted and relied upon by the district, and that's what we've done. We feel that we have read the plain language of the reports and the hydraulic analysis, even without going into the detail, clearly states that there are the potential for sanitary sewer overflows based on the modeling. And so, yes, we did rely on those documents that came from the district and that were done by the district's engineers. And if there is something specific that is incorrect or misstated, we will definitely make changes to the MSR as appropriate. And yes, we did get the financial report, and we did use information in that report. And that information is drawn directly from it. So I believe it's accurate, but if there's anything that's not stated properly, we appreciate any feedback on that. And again, I'd just like to say the MSR does recognize that that the cost to serve new development should not be passed on to existing ratepayers. That being said, it's clear in the MSR and from the documents provided by the district that we read that there is a risk and a need for capacity improvements and expansion in order to avoid potential overflows. So it is not just a matter of age of the infrastructure, it's also the capacity issue that concerns us. And again, existing development and ratepayers should not pay for new development, but even as the district's consultants have pointed out, there are opportunities whereby overall costs can be reduced for everybody, including the existing ratepayers, to the extent that the district works with the developers and that the costs are fairly allocated and assigned appropriately.
And just to add on, Richard, I would just like to say again that both Richard and Jennifer, in writing this report, were working at the direction of LAFCO staff, and we're following state law about the parameters of what the MSR looks at and the required determinations that we need to make. And we look at the fiscal analysis and the fiscal ability of an agency and whether or not there is a mention of rates and how those are structured, or whether the district should look at potential changes to that structure. These are recommendations to the district to determine about whether that is a path of action that the district would like to take. We're not requiring or forcing the district to raise the rates. They are just discussion points for the district to consider. I don't know if you're Richard, if you have any more comments, or Jennifer, that one. Otherwise, I do see Jeff and then Mark, so I'll move to Jeff here in a moment. And Jeff, you can unmute your mic.
Simple question. You know, at the end of the report, you kind of go through the options of status quo, dissolution and absorption, into the city of East Palo Alto, or absorption into West Bay. I'm just curious, and again, it seemed like in those discussions there was very, there was positives and negatives in each of them, but there was one that came out, I think, with the significant positive attributes. And I'm wondering why there was not a specific recommendation as to a path forward. That's a simple question I have. Thank you.
Well, I think I might also defer to Rob and Jennifer based on their experience, but the MSR is primarily an information document to provide a basis for LAFCO's deliberations and understanding of services to a community. And so at least at this point, we really didn't see it as our role to include specifically governance recommendations. I mean, that's really, as we've said, up to LAFCO. It's up to the residents of East Palo Alto and ratepayers of the district to decide what's best for them. But the MSR is intended to provide information and a basis for further discussion about those options. I don't know if Jennifer or Rob have anything to add to that.
I would agree, Richard, in that the MSR is looking really at the data and the information that's coming from the three agencies. And while we do talk about governance options and the potential of those, again, there's a separate initiation of those actions that we need to follow. And I think trying to explain every single, the detailed steps of those initiations and what that process looks like in the MSR takes a little bit away from the recommendations and the other areas of determination that are key in the MSR itself. Because there are various governance options, there are several paths forward if there is an action that is taken for some kind of reorganization. And then I think if there are particular questions from the commission on those issues or further inquiries, I think we would have a more detailed discussion about that at that time.
I don't have anything additional to add. I think you both covered it very well.
So the next hand that I see up is Mark.
Hi, good evening, LAFCO. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for this report. I spent some time reading it. I think I got through most of it. I learned a lot. I thought it was very interesting. I think it's important to bring it back to what's at stake for East Palo Alto. I'm an East Palo Alto resident, and I've been following the Sanitary district very closely because there was a project called the primary school in my backyard. Primary school was going to be funded by Chan Zuckerberg initiative. It was going to be a, I don't know, $30 or $40 million building, providing lots of community benefits, including fixing some infrastructure issues like storm drains on Week Street, as well as providing gymnasium, cafe, tons of facilities for kids, parents, and the like. The Sanitary district tried to do a $4 million charge for a connection fee, and Chan Zuckerberg subsequently paused, then canceled this program as a direct result of this, this overcharge. A second example would be the Light Tree Apartments, which is a low-income housing project in East Palo Alto. EPA Sanitary District first tried to charge $7 million for a connection fee for a 200-unit building. Then they lowered it to $4 million, and finally they lowered it to $2 million. This is still a gross overcharge, but then Light Tree, because they were under time pressure with the state grant, agreed to it with the go-ahead that they could start construction. Now the EPA Sanitary District is threatening to stop their permitting unless they get another $1 million. A third project that was canceled is the Sobrato Nonprofit Center. They canceled that large part due to the Sanitary District. They mentioned it. It's deeply concerning to me as a East Palo Alto resident who has to go to downtown Palo Alto to get a slice of pizza and a beer if I want to sit down at a restaurant other than the Four Seasons. We lack banks, we lack tons of amenities that other cities take for granted. This would include beauty parlors, it includes car mechanics, car washes, just things you do about your everyday life. And we don't have them here. The EPA Sanitary District seems to be more oriented towards blocking development than facilitating sewer services and sanitary services. It's deeply concerning to me as a resident. You can see the impact on the people around us where everybody has to leave the city to do even the most basic things. I see the Sanitary District using scare tactics. Their equivalent for them would be telling me that I need to cut my legs off at the knees to lose weight, and that there's no other way to lose weight other than to amputate your leg or cut off your arm. There are a lot of ways to raise funding for to replace this aging infrastructure. This includes low and no interest loans from the state and federal sources. We're a disadvantaged community in an environmentally sensitive area. There are tons of funding sources available that would not cost ratepayers in East Palo Alto a penny. But the Sanitary District is unwilling to do this. They're not being honest with the community about what the options are. They're not being honest with the community about what the situation is. We have an aging system. It desperately needs to be replaced, even if there wasn't any more development. it's equivalent of having a car and never changing the oil, never changing the tires, and leaving the tank empty and then saying, see, look at how much money we've saved you in terms of your car maintenance. Well, no, you haven't saved anything. You've just deferred the maintenance down the road. Anyway, I thought the report was great. We're definitely in East Palo Alto excited to receive it. There's a very clear path forward that involves the city absorbing the sanitary district and providing adequate and professional services to the community. I want to thank LAFCO for their efforts. I thought the report was comprehensive. It was factual. It was based in reality. I think it is of good service to the community, and I'll leave it at that. So thank you so much.
Sorry, the next hand that I see up is Dennis. So I'll talk. And then Dennis, if you want to unmute your mic, there you go.
Okay, there I go. Thank you. I want to also express appreciation for your efforts. I did recognize some changes in the report from the draft I had viewed earlier and I had commented on, and I appreciate that. One of the things that I found very interesting in the report, and will maybe give you some insight on how the community really feels about the sanitary district being taken over by the city, is the part where you reported on the storm drainage that's administered by the city. And when we were incorporated, the county, I guess it's an underground district, it's a special assessment district, gave that to the city along with the county water. Well, when you read in your report about the pump station at O'Connor, which is the nexus of the whole system, without that pump station functioning correctly, the whole drainage system isn't going to work. And about the other parts of the system that aren't in good working order and haven't been properly maintained. This is what gives us concern. How can the city possibly, if they can't maintain the storm drains, which don't pose the same kind of health and safety problem as sanitary sewers, how can they possibly manage the sanitary sewers? And the notion of them hiring West Bay to do it is just after the city and West Bay take their cut, that's going to be an increase in cost. And we also see West Bay's rates are twice what ours are. And plus they don't want to do it anyway. Also, when you look at the water system, the city originally was managing the water, but they couldn't manage it. And so they had to enter an agreement with private water company. As your report states, I think the current one is Veolia, and I think that's the third one since incorporation. So then the other thing you have to realize is back when there was no one else to help us back in 1939, 1940, the people of this community built the district by hand. You know, they organized it under the Works Progress Administration and built the district, and have built it and maintained it through all these years. And in terms of what that means, it's self-determination. It's a sovereign local government that we created out of necessity. And there's going to be a great effort to preserve that. And the development from the city is a tremendous amount. You know, the general plan created opportunity for new development. When you look at the area north of Bay Road, it's all vacant lots, used to be wrecking yards, and most of the development is going to occur on vacant land. So what some people are saying is the district should have predicted this level, this intensity of development, and built pipelines to serve it. And how, in the imagination of any planner who looked at the vacant land north of Bay Road there with 8-inch sewer pipes, and now planning over 4 million square feet of commercial development and approximately 1,000 residential units, how can they not imagine that bigger pipes would be required? However, the the EIR for the general plan says no significant impact. Finally, we've made effort after effort to work with the city, and they just won't do it, won't cooperate with us. And that's been one of the major impediments. The past mayor informed me that the city council determined that they didn't want to meet with us. And searching the public records can't find any evidence of that ever happening on the agenda. So you see some of the frustrations and some of the duties, some of what we possess as duty to our community. And so thank you for permitting me to share this with you, and you're doing good work, and I intend to comment on it further. Thank you.
The next speaker I see, unless anyone has any comments, is Court, and I'll allow you to talk in just a moment. And again, just there was a couple of comments from a previous speaker, so just to reiterate, and like Richard had said, the information that we have gotten for this MSR is all from documents that were provided by the agencies. So the analysis, about fiscal analysis about data for both West Bay, the city, and East Palo Alto Sanitary District, that is reflected in the MSR itself. So I'll ask Court to speak, and if you want to unmute your microphone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I read through a lot of the report. I think it's important that we look forward, not backward. We can certainly find a lot of room for improvement, more than likely in every agency that is ongoing. And none of them are perfect. And we're going to make a lot more progress cooperating than we are just pointing fingers and laying blame or attempting to. So I appreciate that most of what I read in the MSR seems to understand that concept, and the proposals and the descriptions of the options for moving ahead are moving in the right direction. The idea that developers are going to cost us rather than cost us existing ratepayers is, as far as I'm concerned, ludicrous on the face of it. And I've been involved for some time now in the discussions, and it just seems to me that we need to just get the facts, get them right, and then make some decisions, and then get people working together to make progress. So thank you very much for your efforts.
And I see, Dennis, you still have your hand up, and Court does too. Akin, you have your hand up as well. Did you have additional comments that you would like to say? If so, you can leave your hand up and I'll call on you again. Okay, your hand is still up, so I'll ask you to. Oh, just went down. So we don't have any other hands raised. But if there are additional questions or comments, oh, I can just raise your hand. You did. Oh, now you went away again. But if you do have any additional comments or questions on the MSR, we'll be on here for a couple more minutes. If anything you would like to say, and then the comment period is open now. It will run through May 5th. We will have a commission meeting, a LAPCO commission meeting at April 20th at 2:30 in the afternoon, which will be via Zoom again. And then potentially a meeting in June or July for adoption. Again, that will be noticed, and you will have comments, chances to comment at that meeting. If you have specific questions, my email is on the website along with the MSR, so that I can get those comments, or if you would like to get on the mailing list for future meetings that we can notify you, please let me know. And Akin, I do see your hand up again, so I will call on you.
Thank you for calling on me. The only comment I want to make is that the consultant should include the process of dissolution as part of the document. I think it's good for the consultant to include that. I think it's good for the public to know. It's good for the board of directors to know the process. I think we've been through this before. I have the report that was prepared a while ago. They've been through this process before. I think it's in that MSR, there was a procedure of dissolution. So I think it would be good if the consultant can add that. Then the second thing I want to add is that I think it's also good for the public to weigh in. I've been saying this for a very long time, that the public should weigh in. If the public wants the rates to go up, then the board should do it. If they don't want the rates to go up, then the board should do it. I've been saying this for a very long time, that it is better for the public to weigh in, and whatever the decision of the public is, then the board should go with that decision. I think that can also be included in the document as advisory. Thank you.
Thank you, Akin. So like I said, we'll be on here for a couple more minutes in case anyone does have any additional questions. But generally, that does conclude our overall presentation. Victor, I see your hand up. If you want to unmute your microphone, you should be able to talk.
Oh, I have one question. If it is EPASD is working as hard as they claim, how come they don't solve this issue for so many years? And they did absolutely nothing. And I tried to subdivide one small property to 4 single-family house. Everything got approved, and they asked me to pay $40 million for 4 single-family house to just connect the sewer. I mean, if they claim they're doing such a good job, how come they didn't get anything done? Okay, that's my question. But thank you for the good report. Excellent, very clear.
And I just wanted to thank everyone for their comments and questions tonight. Like I said, we've been able to answer some of them here at this meeting, and then others we'll take back and see if we can make adjustments or additional tweaks to the report to clarify a particular issue. And we won't have that document with revised changes at the April meeting, but you will certainly see that prior to either the June or July meeting. I do see another hand. So let me call on Federico.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity of talking here. I'm just curious, as a resident of East Palo Alto and reading about all these issues regarding the water, the sewage district in the city, and all these projects that are kind of getting blocked, and thus the development of new solutions, or improving in general the city. What can we residents can do as normal citizens like in terms of like democracy, voting, or who should we talk in order to get these problems out of the way? It seems like we hear a lot about these problems, and we are not sure what can we do as normal citizens in terms of like who should we talk to you know, figure out things. It's kind of like confusing in general for the average person. But I would like to see if there is something that we can read or see something where we can vote or do something in a democratic way to solve the problems that it seems like we are noticing more and more as we learn more about the city. Thanks. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, and to some extent, you know, I certainly appreciate that that it is a complex document. LAPCO is somewhat of kind of an obscure agency sometimes, and it can be difficult to ascertain kind of what we do and what these reports try to accomplish. There's a lot of technical information in there. So yes, you know, certainly on this particular issue, it's engaging with LAPCO, continue to follow this process through the MSR, and then past that, you know, it's then if you are wanting to talk about this issue and further, it's talking with the district, it's talking with the city about how that could work as a process, what improvements can be done, how people can be engaged, but it's then working with those particular member agencies at that point. So hopefully, as we see the process through, that will be a way to continue with that.
Right, and Rob, I'll just add, I think it was a good suggestion that was made to add more information about the process involved in the different options, because as we noted very briefly, some of these involve actions by the city. It's possible for residents to be involved through the petition process. Ultimately, it may come to a vote. And so we'll try to summarize those various steps, and hopefully that will help explain how citizens, at what point they can be involved and how they might be involved.
Yeah, that's a good point, Richard. And I do think we've heard that comment a couple times tonight. And I think we can do it in a way that doesn't necessarily complicate the report, but explains what the process is for people when they read the report about what this may mean for them. And then still also with the focus on the recommendations and the determinations that we need to have in there. But I do agree, Richard. I think that is something that we will add. That's certainly a good idea. And Chris, I see your hand up, so I will call on you. Just want to unmute your microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I actually missed the majority of this meeting, but I did just want to leave a comment. I'm a resident of East Palo Alto, and it's been pretty frustrating to see a lot of projects I love to happen, like a lot of the affordable housing, some of the the potential new library, health clinic at Ravenswood Health Clinic. Some of them get canceled, or like the primary school get canceled because of a lot of the high fees from the sanitary district. So I just wanted to voice my opinion about how I'd love to find a way to help like lower costs and be able to help get these projects approved to help our city. Thanks.
And thank you, Chris. And we'll have we'll definitely have the PowerPoint available on our website. We'll see if we can have the recording of this as well. But you also, if you did miss some of the meeting tonight, we'll again have another presentation on this on April 20th at 2:30 at the regular LAPCO commission meeting, where we'll probably actually have a little more in-depth discussion at that meeting as well. So there are other opportunities to learn about it, and the report is also on our website. As I'm not seeing any new attendees or any new hands raised, I'll do one last call for any more comments, questions, at least at this time. But like I said, this is just kind of the beginning of the opportunity to engage on this particular report. The comment period again runs through May 5th. We have a number of meetings. Well, again, the April 20th meeting, a subsequent meeting in June or July, the adoption. The report is up on our website. We'll make this PowerPoint available as well. And the staff report, along with the full MSR, again, will be published at the 20th meeting. That will be published next week, next Wednesday. And if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is part of this PowerPoint. It's also on the San Mateo LAPCO website. And otherwise, I think we will call it an evening. And I wanted to thank you all for your comments and your participation tonight. I know it's a late evening and hard to come on at a 7 o'clock meeting on a Wednesday, but we do appreciate your comments and your questions. And these are all things that we'll take into consideration as we work through this report. And I don't know if Richard or Jennifer, do you have any last comments?
No, I appreciate the comments that were made, and there were a lot of good constructive ideas, and we'll do our best to reflect those in the next set of revisions.
Agreed, and I invite everybody to continue to make comments through the closing period, May 5th. And that's what makes a document or a report like this the best that it can be, is when we get input from the public. So thank you.
Okay, and thank you all very much, and hopefully have a very good evening. Thank you again.